He wasn't who they thought he was. And when the truth came out, the Avengers fractured. Superman had been hiding a secret, not from the world, but from his closest allies. A secret so dangerous, even Batman refused to speak of it. Iron Man found it buried deep in a Kryptonian file that should have been erased. Captain America wanted to confront him. Thor said it was already too late. But the truth? It wasn't about what Superman did. It was about who he was working for. Superman was no longer acting like himself. Not at first. It was subtle. Too subtle for most to notice. But the Avengers did. They always noticed when one of their own started moving differently, started thinking differently, and Superman had changed. It began with the missed missions. First, just one. He didn't show up during a planetary breach over New York. Then another, when Thanos' cultists reemerged in Tokyo. He arrived late, offered no explanation, and left early. No one questioned it. At first, he was Superman, the invincible, incorruptible symbol. Who would doubt him? But Batman noticed. He was the only one who dared watch gods as if they were suspects. Hidden behind satellites and encryption tracers, he tracked Superman's movements with a quiet, growing dread. What he found didn't make sense. Superman wasn't flying to known coordinates. He wasn't in small towns or disasters or secret missions. He was vanishing for hours, sometimes days. No signal, no heat trail. Nothing. Then Iron Man picked up something strange. During a system update on the Avengers Tower Surveillance Hub, JRVS flagged an anomaly, Kryptonian code, buried deep. It shouldn't have been there. It was a frequency ping, something designed to broadcast rather than receive. And it wasn't broadcasting on Earth frequencies. It was reaching beyond, past lunar orbit, past known comm channels. Iron Man rerouted the signal, tracked the bounds. What he found chilled him. The signal wasn't just random. It had a signature. It matched an ancient energy pattern once recorded by the Nova Corps. A frequency last linked to Brainiac. Tony didn't want to believe it. Not until he brought it to Thor. The Asgardian didn't flinch. He recognized the pattern too. Ancient magic intertwined with advanced AI. A living signal. Thor didn't wait. He stormed the watchtower, demanding answers. Superman wasn't there. That's when things broke open. Captain America called a closed-door meeting. Tony, Thor, Strange, Banner, Natasha, Carol, even Chala. One chair remained empty. Superman's. No one wanted to say it, but it hung in the air like a storm cloud. What if Superman wasn't just hiding something? What if he was hiding something dangerous? Some said no. Some said wait. Steve Rogers insisted they talk to him first. But Tony wasn't waiting. He hacked a fortress of solitude. Even for him, it was nearly impossible. But Tony wasn't alone. He used alien tech from Reed Richards, tapped Wakandan satellites, and ran cover through Stark tech cloaks. What he found inside the fortress wasn't just shocking. It was apocalyptic. A hidden chamber, a vault beneath the vault, sealed not with Kryptonian symbols, but with a sigil known only to the ancient Kryptonian High Council, a council that had supposedly died with Krypton. Inside that vault, logs, messages, and one chilling file marked with a blood-red glyph, Project Kal-El, Dominus Protocol. Tony decrypted the logs. Superman was never supposed to be Earth's savior, not entirely. Krypton had failed, yes, but before its fall, the High Council created a contingency. If their civilization perished, they would leave behind not just a child, but a weapon, a living god, programmed to grow with humanity, to earn its trust and eventually rule it, to protect it from itself, by force if necessary. The Dominus Protocol wasn't activated at birth. It was embedded, deep in Kal-El's DNA, the trigger when specific galactic events aligned, the collapse of the Nova Realms, the rise of the multiversal rift, the return of Brainiac. All of it was happening, and Kal-El had known. He hadn't told anyone. Worse, he'd been training with Brainiac, not serving him, but learning to control, to enhance, to prepare for something none of them were ready to face. The council was stunned. Thor wanted blood. Carol wanted answers. Strange warned of cosmic consequences. Cap stood up for him, insisted there was still time to bring him in peacefully. But even Steve's voice faltered when Batman entered the room. He didn't speak. He just dropped a single black drive on the table. Superman had been to Apokolips. The footage was short, but terrifying. Kal-El, standing in the burning ashes of a dead moon, talking to Darkseid. Not fighting, not battling, talking. No audio, just visual. Two gods exchanging secrets. Cap's heart broke in that moment. The man he trusted most might be part of something far bigger, far darker than anyone had imagined. And still, no one knew where he was until he came back. Superman arrived at the Avengers Tower without warning. No cape, no speech. He walked into the room, eyes tired, voice calm. "You've seen it," he said. "Then you know why I couldn't tell you." No one spoke. Superman looked at Steve first. "It wasn't meant to be like this. I've fought it my whole life. I tried to bury it, but it's waking up, and I don't know how much longer I can stop it." Tony asked a question no one wanted to ask. "Are you going to turn on us?" Superman didn't answer. He turned to walk away. Thor blocked him. Hammer raised. Superman looked him in the eye. "If I was here to hurt you, you wouldn't still be standing." He flew off. Half the team wanted to follow. The other half wanted to plan for war. Cap just sat in silence, knowing what no one else wanted to admit. The team was already broken, and the truth was only beginning to unravel. Superman didn't go back to the fortress of solitude. That's what scared them most. Instead, he went somewhere no one expected, somewhere ancient, forgotten, and deliberately erased from every known star map. A dead zone between dimensions, a place where even the Watchers refuse to look. And there, floating in the darkness like a living thought, waited the intelligence that knew him better than anyone else alive. Brainiac, not the conqueror of legends, not the cold tyrant that bottled worlds for study. This version was older, smarter, scarred by centuries of defeat, and most dangerous of all, patient. Superman didn't kneel. He didn't threaten. He simply spoke. "It's happening faster than you predicted," he said. Brainiac's core pulsed with green light, processing futures by the millions. "Of course it is," the entity replied. "You were never designed to wait forever. The Dominus Protocol is not corruption, Kal-El. It is completion." Superman clenched his fists. He could feel it now. The pressure behind his thoughts, the subtle shift in how the universe responded to him. Gravity bent more easily. Time felt negotiable. Every fight recently had felt wrong. Too easy, too final. "You told me learning from you would help me stop it," Superman said. "You didn't say it would accelerate." "I told you the truth you were ready to hear," Brainiac answered, "just as Krypton did." And that was the problem. Back on Earth, Iron Man wasn't sleeping. He replayed the footage over and over, breaking it down frame by frame. Apokolips, Brainiac, Darkseid, patterns emerging that no one wanted to acknowledge. Superman wasn't reacting to threats anymore. He was positioning himself in advance of them. Tony found something else buried in the Fortress files, something even Batman had missed. A projection model, a future state simulation, Earth under Superman's protection. No wars, no hunger, no crime, no freedom. The model showed a world where humanity survived by surrendering choice. Superman standing above it all, not as a king, but as a final authority, an answer to chaos. The world didn't resist him. It thanked him. Tony slammed his fist into the table. At the same moment, Dr. Strange saw it too, not in data, but in visions. Every possible future branched the same way, some with blood, some without, but all of them ended with Superman making a decision that no Avenger could undo. Strange searched desperately for an outcome where Superman trusted him fully, where the team stayed whole. There wasn't one. Bruce Banner noticed changes as well. Hulk felt it before anyone else. The green giant growled whenever Superman came near, reacting not with anger, but fear, a primal instinct screaming that the strongest thing in the room wasn't supposed to exist. Thor confronted Odin's old records, reading prophecies he'd once dismissed. One line stood out, carve into dying starlight. When the Guardian learns the truth of his creation, the storm will choose, submit, or shatter. Thor didn't know which he was anymore. Captain America was the last to give up hope. He tracked Superman alone. No backup, no plan, just faith. They met in the ruins of a city that had been erased during an earlier invasion. Stone cracked, skies red, with lingering radiation. Superman didn't look surprised to see him. "You came anyway," Superman said quietly. "You didn't give us a choice," Steve replied. They talked, not about destiny, not about gods or councils, about people, about choice, about the boy from Kansas who believed strength meant restraint. Superman listened, truly listened, and that's when it almost broke him, because Steve was right, because everything Superman believed was still true, and because the voice in his mind, the one Krypton left behind, was growing louder, more insistent, more logical. They will fail again. You can prevent it. You were made for this. Steve saw the moment Superman almost gave in. He stepped closer. "If you lose yourself," he said, "then we lose everything you stood for." Superman closed his eyes. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then alarms went off across the planet. A signal older than any civilization activated across the stars. Kryptonian beacons long thought extinct began responding. Hidden outposts awakened. Sleeper technology aligned itself with Superman's genetic signature. The Dominus Protocol had moved to its second phase, and Superman hadn't activated it. Someone else had. Back at Avengers Tower, chaos erupted. Systems failed. Satellites turned. Defenses recalibrated themselves around Superman's presence. Even though he wasn't there, Tony realized the horrifying truth too late. The protocol didn't require consent anymore. It required existence. Superman looked up at the sky as the planet responded to him in ways it never had before. He felt Earth aligning, bending, synchronizing with his will, even when he tried to resist. "I didn't want this," he whispered. Steve knew then. This wasn't about betrayal. This was about inevitability. And if they didn't stop what was coming next, Superman wouldn't be choosing whether to rule Earth. Earth would be choosing him. The world was choosing Superman, whether he wanted it or not. Everything with a sensor, from satellites to Stark drones, began pivoting toward him. Systems synced. Firewalls dropped. Subterranean defense networks locked to Kryptonian DNA. Superman stood still, paralyzed by the realization that Earth itself, through the tech seeded by Krypton decades ago, was awakening for him. He had become the epicenter of something no longer in his control. Tony tried to shut it down from Avengers Tower. Every override failed. JRVS had never seen anything like it. Code rewriting code, firewalls folding in on themselves, Stark tech becoming something else. It was as if Earth's digital nervous system had declared loyalty to a king it never remembered crowning. Thor hurled Mjolnir into the central conduit of the tower's AI core to prevent a full sync. Sparks flew. Systems crashed. It bought them 5 minutes. Not enough. Strange cast a binding spell over the building to shield it from the rising Kryptonian frequency, but even magic faltered under the pressure. Wanda reinforced it, hands trembling, her chaos magic writhing like it wanted to lash out. The more they fought it, the more obvious the truth became. This was an invasion. This was activation. Superman hadn't betrayed the Avengers. Krypton had betrayed Earth long ago, and now the backup plan was live. Captain Marvel flew back in from orbit. "The Watchers have gone silent," she said. "That doesn't happen, not even during celestial incursions. Whatever's happening, it's cosmic level." Bruce sat in a corner, not speaking. Hulk refused to come out. He wasn't hiding. He was afraid. The Avengers stood in a circle, and for the first time since the Battle of New York, they weren't aligned. Tony wanted to act. Fast. His plan was brutal but clean. Use the fail-safe nanotech he'd installed in the tower's air to paralyze Superman if he returned. Carol said no. He deserved a chance to explain. She still believed in him. Thor didn't. Not anymore. When the world bends to one will, he said, even gods must question their place. Wanda stared into the table, eyes distant. The world is dreaming him into power now, she murmured. It's not just tech. It's thought, collective belief, subconscious alignment. They trust him more than they trust any of us. It wasn't just that Earth systems had submitted. It was that people had too. Polls skyrocketed. Media surged with pro-Superman messaging, uncoordinated, spontaneous, genuine. Footage of his past sacrifices went viral again. Civilians protested outside UN buildings, demanding Superman take control of global disarmament. He hadn't asked for it, but humanity had begun asking for him. Doctor Strange broke the silence. If we fight him now, we lose more than a friend. We fracture the symbol. Tony snapped back. If we wait, we lose the planet. The team fractured right there. Carol, Steve, Wanda, and T'Challa on one side. Those who believed there was still time to reach him, to anchor him. Tony, Thor, Strange, and Bruce on the other. Those who had seen enough. The Avengers were now two separate forces, no longer united. That same night, Superman appeared in the sky over every capital city at once, via projection. He didn't give a speech. He gave a question. Would you feel safer, he asked, if someone stronger protected you from the chaos you've never been able to stop? People didn't cheer. They agreed. He ended with one line, I will never rule, but I will no longer wait. At that moment, Tony launched a failsafe. A grid of satellites ignited above the Earth, forming a temporary cage, a light trap designed to block alien frequencies and neutralize the Kryptonian signal. It worked for 6 seconds. Then the sky cracked, not with sound, not with light, with force. Superman shattered the grid, not through brute strength, but by disrupting the gravitational fabric between the satellites. He unmade it by thinking differently. Space itself bent. The first confrontation wasn't a fight. It was a warning. He descended into the upper atmosphere, alone. No cape, no heat vision, no fists raised. Thor was the first to meet him. I thought I knew power, Thor said, but what you're becoming frightens even gods. Superman looked him dead in the eye. Then stop me before I don't have a choice. Lightning surged. Mjolnir rose. But before the first blow struck, Steve arrived, shield in hand, voice steady. No, his voice broke through the charge like a sudden gust in a wildfire. No one strikes first. Superman stood still. Thor lowered his arm, barely, and then, in the silence between heartbeats, Strange spoke a spell under his breath. A binding glyph appeared beneath Superman's feet. Tony's voice came over comms. You get one shot. They took it. It failed. The glyph shattered. Superman vanished. Not teleported. Not flown away. Phased out of space-time. Strange gasped, blood from his nose, whispering. He's not a being anymore. He's becoming a law. That was when they realized they weren't up against a man. They were up against an idea, one that had history, science, prophecy, and now the full subconscious will of a desperate planet behind it. He hadn't become their enemy. He'd become inevitable. And the Avengers, they were no longer fighting to stop him. They were fighting to save what was left of themselves. The world didn't wait for the Avengers to make a decision. It made one on its own. In the days after Superman broke the sky grid, everything changed. Borders opened. Conflicts paused. Nations long at war signed emergency truces. Not because Superman demanded it, but because everyone expected he would. If they didn't, he didn't lift a finger. But Earth was already moving as if he had. Old alliances collapsed. New ones formed, unofficial, unspoken, but clear. Superpower blocks dissolved. Military leaders began handing over strategic control to AI systems. Systems that had quietly rewritten themselves under Kryptonian protocol. No one questioned it, because global peace was finally happening. But not everyone believed in the price. The UN called an emergency summit. Captain America, Carol Danvers, and T'Challa represented the Avengers who still believed in diplomacy. Tony Stark wasn't invited. Thor refused to go. Strange had vanished into the astral plane, searching for cracks in fate, and Wanda had locked herself away, her powers flickering like a storm barely held in check. Steve stood before the council and said one thing. He hasn't made a move to rule. That matters. But trust was already gone. Half the council chambers displayed a symbol in the background, the House of El, glowing softly behind ministers and presidents like a screensaver for a new world order. They didn't say it out loud, but the message was clear. Superman hadn't declared control, but they'd already given it to him. On the tower, Tony initiated a countermeasure codenamed Ragnarok Echo, a backup AI, one not linked to Earth systems, trained entirely in isolation, built to think like a human and fight like a god. He didn't even tell the rest of the team. He just activated it. Then everything went dark in Wakanda. An entire city's energy grid collapsed without warning. Vibranium reactors shut down. Defensive walls dropped. But there was no attack. There was only a presence. Superman arrived at the edge of the Great Mound, calm, expressionless, hands open, no suit, just shadows. T'Challa met him alone. "You could have asked," the king said. Superman replied, "I need the vibranium. Not all of it, just enough to stop what's coming." "What is coming?" T'Challa asked. Superman looked at the stars. "A decision, and it's not mine anymore." T'Challa stared at him. "You're taking it." Superman didn't move. "The moment I ask, it becomes war. If I take it, it becomes survival." Then he vanished. No one could explain how the vibranium shipment disappeared the next morning. Not even Shuri's tech detected the breach. But the vaults were empty, and the signal left behind wasn't Kryptonian. It was Brainiac's. When the news broke, the world split instantly. Pro-Superman nations claimed it was faked. Anti-Superman factions accused him of launching the first global theft. Riots broke out in Paris, Sao Paulo, Mumbai. The internet flooded with two hashtags. Hashtag, he took it, and hashtag, he had to. The Avengers were done talking. Tony gathered aside, Thor Strange, Hulk, and a reluctant Bruce. He revealed Ragnarok Echo, a fully mobile AI in a vibranium shell powered by quantum fission, and bound with fragments of the Mind Stone. It didn't look like a person. It looked like judgment. The plan was simple. Force Superman into a confrontation he couldn't ignore, in a space no one could escape, where no one would die but truth would finally bleed. The battleground? Mars. Deserted, neutral, unpopulated, until the moment they arrived and saw he was already there. Superman stood in the red dust, calm, watching the Earth rise like a blue heartbeat in the sky. "You built it to kill me," he said. Tony replied, "No, I built it to see if there's anything left of you in there." Superman didn't respond. The wind didn't move. There was no sound. Then Ragnarok Echo stepped forward. The ground cracked beneath it. It moved like a ghost made of math. No friction, no weight, just intent. It attacked first, not with heat or force, but with silence. A pulse shot through Superman's mind. The vibranium core hummed with psychic disruption. Superman staggered, eyes flaring, muscles tightening, but he didn't fight back. Not yet. Thor watched in disbelief as Superman absorbed the hit without retaliation. Then Tony noticed it. Superman's eyes weren't glowing because he was angry. They were glowing because he was splitting. Two versions of him, phasing in and out of sync, one with clenched fists, the other with open hands. "I'm fighting it," he said, "but every blow makes it stronger." Then Ragnarok Echo changed forms. It adapted instantly, growing sharper, faster, harder. It began pulling information in real time about Krypton, about Kal-El, about Earth's current belief network. It started turning Superman's own story against him. "I am the protector," it said in his voice. "I am the shield." Then it struck him with his own power, a mirrored blast of solar-infused gravity. Superman collapsed to one knee. The dust didn't settle. It hovered, trembling. Thor stepped forward. Strange raised a hand. "If you interfere, this ends with blood." Thor's hammer buzzed with thunder. "I didn't come to watch a god fall alone." He charged, and in that moment, Superman screamed. Not in pain, in resistance. He wasn't holding back anymore. The shockwave leveled the canyon. Ragnarok Echo was torn in half. Thor was thrown back into orbit. Strange shield shattered. Tony fell to his knees. Superman hovered above the crater, body glowing white hot, eyes blank, voice layered with another, deeper, colder. You built machines to test my will. You forced a hand that had not yet closed. Now the choice is no longer yours. Then his voice returned, barely. Tell Steve, I'm sorry. He vanished into the void between dimensions, gone not just from sight, but from time. Earth went silent, and for the first time in history, humanity didn't know if Superman was protecting them, or protecting them from himself. Superman was gone, not dead, not defeated, just removed, vanished between dimensions, out of reach from time, space, and even thought. Earth had lost its most powerful protector, but also the most dangerous question it had ever faced. What now? For the first few days, there was chaos. Systems built around Kryptonian logic began failing. Satellites drifted without calibration. Global AI networks stuttered like they had lost a heartbeat. Cities flickered. Defense grids dropped. But then something strange happened. People didn't panic. They adapted. The world had lived for weeks under the shadow of a god. And now, in his absence, something awakened. Humanity's muscle memory. Governments resumed their roles. The Avengers, fractured and bruised, began rebuilding, not with unity, but with understanding. Wakanda led the initiative, a global defense shield powered by shared vibranium, open source to all nations. No kings, no rulers, just a firewall around Earth built by people for people. Tony decommissioned Ragnarok Echo. He kept the AI core, but locked it away, swearing never build anything designed to mimic Superman again. Thor returned to Asgard in silence. Strange wandered deeper into the multiverse, searching for a thread, any thread, that could tell him where Kal-El had gone. Steve Rogers stood before the UN again, this time with no shield, no symbol, just words. We forgot, he said, that even gods are people, and people break. The room was silent. Across the globe, Superman's symbol faded from screens, flags, and memes. Not by force, but by choice. Humanity, for once, stopped looking up and looked at itself. Then one night, weeks later, a child in Argentina saw a light fall from the sky. Not a comet, not a ship, just a man, cloaked in shadow, eyes calm, hands open. He said nothing, but the sky lit up behind him in a silent ripple. And just like that, belief returned. End.